Good evening and welcome to the April 18th Planning Commission meeting. Members of the public are encouraged to participate in meetings by accessing the webcast on the city's website, providing written comment on the same website, participating by phone, or attending the Planning Commission meeting in person. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please stand with me as Commissioner Aber leads us in the flag salute. Commission Secretary, if you please call the roll.
Yes. For the record, Commissioner Bedstead is absent this evening. Commissioner Hatcher?
Here.
Commissioner Aber?
Here.
Commissioner Hinkle?
Here.
Chair Antuna?
Here. Very good. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the minutes for the March 28th, 2024 Planning Commission meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Hatcher and a second by Commissioner Aber to approve the March 28th, 2024 minutes. Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Aber?
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkle?
Yes.
Chair Antuna?
Yes.
And Commissioner Bedstead is absent, and the motion passes 4-0-1.
Very good. Do we have any comments from the Secretary today?
No, we don't.
Very good. Any comments from our Planning Commission members? Okay, then seeing none, moving on to our public hearing comments. This is an opportunity for the members of the public to address the Planning Commission on any matter within the Planning Commission jurisdiction that is not listed on your agenda. If you would like to speak, step to the podium there and state your name and address for the record. In order that everyone be heard, we limit the comments to 5 minutes. Anyone wishing to be placed on the agenda for a specific topic should contact the Planning Division and submit correspondence at least 10 days prior to the desired date of appearance. Do we have any comments from the floor? Very good. And none online?
No online comments.
I should ask, are we taking online comments anymore? If there are some? Very good.
No, so the new policy from our administration is that we're not accepting any more online comments. The individuals that will be available to participate online will be primarily consultants related to a project.
Very good. Thank you very much. Then I will not ask you that question anymore. Okay, very good. Now we're going to move on to our first item. Consider approval of R-224-001, recommending that the City Council approve an exception from further environmental review under CEQA guidelines, Section 15183, and approve a rezone adjustment and existing zoning designation from R1-7500 single-family residential to 7,500 square feet zone district to the C-P Administrative and Professional Office Zone District for the property located at 488 North Armstrong Avenue, Dale and Mary I'm sorry, I'm going to massacre your name here. Code owner, GMA Engineering, applicant, and representative. Marissa Jensen, staff presenting.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, Planning Commission. I'm happy to be here tonight to present Rezone 2024-1. This project is a request associated with a 1.3-acre rural residential site, which you can see highlighted in red on the screen. This parcel is located just north of the Herndon Armstrong Professional Center, which is conveniently located at the northwest corner of Herndon and Armstrong Avenues. The project site is surrounded by additional rural residential properties to the north, offices to the south and west, and commercial to the east. The existing general plan designation for the subject parcel is currently office, which is consistent with that of the professional center to the south. The project site has an existing zoning of R1 7500, which is one of our single-family residential zone districts, and this is not consistent with the general plan designation. However, the professional center is zoned CP, which is our administrative and professional office zone district. The applicant is proposing a request to rezone the project site from the residential zone district to CP as well, so that it will be consistent with the general plan designation as well as the professional center. If approved, the applicant is planning to develop 2 additional office buildings that are consistent with that of the center. As you can see on screen, there are some examples of what the buildings look like in that center. As these are being developed by the same entity, they plan to carry over consistent design and characteristics as what was approved in 2005. Just to wrap things up, the applicant is requesting a proposal to correct the existing inconsistent zoning designation by rezoning the property from R1 7500 to CP so that it will be consistent with the general plan designation of office. As this will correct the inconsistency between the general plan designation and the zone district and will allow for the infill development of the site, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution recommending that the City Council approve Rezone 2024-1. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for staff? Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Do we have the applicant present? If you'd like to step up to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, there should be a little button there that has the speaker. There you go.
Okay, let's try that again.
Yeah.
My name's Adam Stevenson. I'm an architect with GMA Engineering. So is there anything I can, any questions I can answer?
Do you have any comments that you'd like to share with us?
No.
Any questions for the applicant? Very good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite anyone in the public who is in support of this item to step up to the podium. Okay, seeing none, do we have anyone who would like to speak against this project? Very good. Seeing none, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And do we have, commissioners, do we have any clarifying questions for staff? Nope. All right, then we're going to go ahead and deliberate and discuss this item and propose a motion.
Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll make a motion to approve rezone 2024-001.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Hatcher and a second by Commissioner Hebert, recommending that the City Council approve an exemption from further environmental review under CEQA Guidelines Section 1518.3 and approve the adjustment of the existing zone district designation from the R1 7500 zone district to the CP Administrative and Professional Office zone district for the subject property. Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Hebert?
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkle?
Yes.
Chair Antuna?
Yes.
And Commissioner Bedstead is absent. The motion carries 401.
Okay, moving on to item number 3. Consider items associated with approximately 246 acres of land located southwest of the intersection of Beheimer Avenue and the Sunnyside Avenue alignment within the Heritage Grove Urban Center. Great Big Land LP owner, Wilson Premier Homes, Inc., applicant, Arbor and Associates representative. Consider approval, a resolution recommending that the City Council, 1, clarify the final environmental impact report for TM 6343 project, 2, adopt CEQA findings of fact and statement of overriding consideration, and 3, adopt a mitigation, monitoring, and reporting program. Consider approval of General Plan Amendment, General Plan 2021-003, a resolution recommending that the City Council approve a request to amend the land use element of the general plan for the development area, approximately 71.54 acres from the medium density land use designation to medium high density land use designation. Consider approval of R 2021-006, a resolution recommending that the City Council approve a request to pre-zone the properties within the annex area, 246 acres, from the Fresno County AE-20 zone district to the Clovis O, P through F, R through A, R1, and R1 PRD zone districts. Consider approval, tentative tract map 6343, a resolution recommending that the City Council approve vesting tentative tract map for a 590-lot single-family planned residential. And consider approval of PDP 2021-001, a resolution recommending that the City Council approve a request to approve a planned development permit for a 590-lot single-family residential development. Lily Cha, staff presenter.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. Before I get started, I would like to introduce Kyle. He's with the city's consultant, LSA, who the city hired on to prepare the initial study and environmental impact report. Kyle will be available for any questions pertaining to the CEQA documents. So I just want to reiterate the entitlements being considered with this project. There is an annexation, which is an item that will be considered by the council, a general plan amendment, a pre-zone, a vesting tentative tract map, planned residential development permit, as well as the environmental impact report prepared for the project. The project itself is a 590-lot single-family planned residential development on about 71.54 acres of property that's generally located in the southwest area of Beheimer and Sunnyside Avenues. Although the project is about 71 acres, it encompasses a larger annexation area. It's about 246 acres. And the purpose for that is to create what LAFCO would define as a logical boundary. So both LAFCO and Fresno County are both in support of this boundary for annexation into the city. It is also important to note that a pretty large portion of this annexation area, roughly 86 acres, is a FMFCD basin that's located right here. And this feature kind of also helps to reaffirm this boundary that was selected. With this project, the applicant is requesting to increase the density from the medium density residential designation to the medium high density residential designation. That's the general plan land use designation. And that is being proposed through GPA 2021-003. So with the medium density residential designation, it allows for single-family development at densities between 4.1 to 7 dwelling units per acre. In terms of units, that's between 293 units to 501 units for this particular project site. The applicant is proposing to redesignate to the medium-high density residential designation, which allows for development at 7.1 to 15 dwelling units per acre. And then again, with this project site, that would allow for anything between 508 to 1,073 units. The project itself is proposing 590 units, which is a density of 8.25, and falls in at the lower end of that density range. The applicant is proposing to pre-zone the subject site, the 71 acres, to the R1 PRD zone district, which is the planned residential development zone district. And again, because there is a larger annexation area, those properties to be annexed will also be required to be pre-zoned. And the zone district selected for those properties are consistent with their corresponding general plan designations as existing in the city's current general plan. So, for instance, in brown, you see an RA zone district for those rural residential single-family sites. That's just south of Beheimer. The RA zone district was selected because it's the consistent zone district with what the city defines for the very low density designation. So the project itself, again, is tract map 6343. It's 71.54 acres. There are 3 gated communities within this development, and the total lots are, again, it's 590 single-family residential lots. Lot sizes range between 1,980 square feet to the largest is 11,676 square feet. The average lot size in the development is about 3,335 square feet, and the developer proposes 2 product lines or product types, including the elevations and the Regent Park products. The elevation product will be situated along the north end and the south end of the development. There are a total of 376 lots. And lot sizes range between 1,980 square feet to 4,928 square feet. The average lot size within that product is about 2,151 square feet. The Regent Park product is situated centrally in the development. There are about 214 lots total. Lot sizes range between 4,050 square feet to 11,676 square feet, and an average lot size is 4,050 square feet. So in terms of circulation, the project is bounded by Beheimer Avenue to the north, and we'll be installing Barron Avenue, or extending Barron Avenue north to Beheimer. We'll also be installing Perrin Avenue and Hamel Avenue. And all internal streets within the gated areas are all private streets. Again, this is a planned development permit, and what the planned development permit, or a PDP process, allows is that it allows the developer, it gives the developer the creative license to propose unique development standards associated with the proposed development. And in this case, with the exception that they provide amenities and enhancements to the project. And in this situation, with this development here, with the 2 different product types, this table depicts the development standards proposed for each development types. And I just want to note, I'm not going to go over them, but I just want to note that these development standards being proposed are consistent with previously developed and established subdivisions with these 2 products, the elevations and the Regent Park product. In regards to amenities, well, before I get started on that, I just want to note that the concept provided it depicts a larger green space on the west side of the Enterprise Canal, west of the project, and that's not a part of the project. It's actually a concept depicting the future City of Clovis Park that will be adjacent to Clovis Avenue. So the project itself will be providing amenities, including 2 gated community areas that will include swimming pool and recreational building, a trail on the north side of Perrin Avenue, a park, and then the extension of that trail along the west side of Hamel Avenue North. These areas, or the recreational and swimming pool areas, are depicted in the red boundaries, and the photos are just examples of existing amenities by the developers. The trail on the north side of Perrin Avenue will have a roughly 50-foot right-of-way. That'll include a 10-foot meandering concrete trail on top of a intersecting 5-foot wide decomposed granite running path. And this trail will cross over to the south side of Perrin Avenue into connecting to this proposed open space here, which would provide for open space as well as fitness equipment. And then extending from there, a version of the trail will extend there north, eventually connecting to Beheimer Avenue. That's a roughly 19-foot right-of-way with an 8-foot meandering concrete path. In addition to the amenities, the developer will also be providing enhancements and thematic elements. That includes a community corner gateway, as well as enhanced perimeter wall treatment and enhanced entry treatments. There's not a point here, but also enhancements to the elevations, which are evaluated during the residential site plan review process. The community gateway is a requirement of the Heritage Grove Master Plan, and this is just a concept taken out from the master plan. The master plan doesn't actually design the gateway. It provides a concept and an intent in which the developer will be responsible for designing. This will actually be the first of this type of community gateway in the Heritage Grove area. So the staff will work closely with the developer to design this area, because it will be carried over to future developments that require also this type of gateway. So on top of that, the developer will also be enhancing the walls, and this is just an example of wall enhancement using pilasters. Again, this will be reviewed through the civil plans. And these are examples of enhanced entryway treatments that will also be evaluated or reviewed through the civil plans. So an initial study and environmental impact report were prepared for the project. The initial study analyzed and screened out some of the environmental factors, while the EIR further analyzed those factors that were not screened out with the initial study. Those include air quality, greenhouse gas, noise, transportation, and then the developer selected to further analyze agriculture in the environmental impact report. And this is just a synopsis of the timeline for the CEQA process. So the initial study and the notice of preparation of an EIR was published on December 19th, 2022. And that period lasted between the 19th and the 17th, January 17th of the following year. And the city held a public scoping meeting on January 12th of 2023 to collect comments for the EIR. And then the EIR, notice of availability of the EIR was published on January 1st of 2024. So the EIR identified significant and unavoidable impacts when it comes to traffic, and the City Council will have to make a statement of overriding consideration in order to certify and approve the EIR. Several comments, or particularly 3 comment letters, were received from the public, in which we want to take an opportunity to address those comments in our presentation here. They pertain to a signal light at Barron and Beheimer Avenue, traffic impacts, Barron Avenue improvements, the increase in density, zoning and general plan designation specifically for the rural residential sites mentioned earlier, opposition to the annexation, as well as project alternative evaluated in the EIR. So one of the comments mentioned that the increased density to the medium high is not compatible with the existing rural residences. And staff's response to that is that although, it is a density that is higher compared to the RA zone district, it is consistent and compatible, specifically this development, because it is developing at the low end of the proposed density, medium-high density. That is consistent with the development that is creeping up through the city's limits. So, particularly tract 6050 just south of here, very similar in characteristics. And then other comments pertain to not wanting to have the very low density designation, as well as the RA zone district for those rural residential lots in question. And I just want to point out that, or as mentioned earlier in the presentation, those sites have been designated in the city's general plan as very low. And the corresponding or consistent zone district is the RA zone district. So when it comes to annexation, the city will have to rezone consistent with the existing land use destination. Another comment pertains to residents being opposed to the inclusion of their properties in the annexation. So these properties are in the city's growth area, the city's sphere of influence, and so annexation seems imminent, whether it's now or in the future, because the city will grow into this area in the future. So both with this particular project in question, both Fresno County and LAFCO determined that this was the logical boundary that they support. We did recently speak to representatives from Fresno County, and I don't think that they see annexation occurring without these sites. Another question pertains to the EIR project alternatives, lower density project alternative evaluated in the EIR or touched upon in the EIR. And unfortunately, the project alternative is not the project being proposed, and does not meet the objectives outlined in the EIR for the project, which is to provide the additional housing to address housing shortages and to provide this unique mixture type of housing. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Sean Smith to respond to some of the questions related to traffic.
Thanks, Lily. Yeah, so there was a comment about the traffic signal at Barron and Beheimer, and the comment was that city staff had misrepresented whether or not there would be a signal. Now, before the project, city staff did not envision there being a traffic signal there, so our representation was accurate based on that time. After the traffic study was done for this project, we realized it's warranted, so a traffic signal has now been added to the inventory of public infrastructure. The Barron Avenue, there were some comments about the east side of Barron Avenue not being improved. So I just want to clarify that in the conditions, it is very typical of our conditions to only include a 3/4 street and not include the opposite curb line. That's not the situation here. So Barron, from Perrin up to Beheimer, is actually planned to be improved curb to curb, and there will be some sidewalk along the side of the basin as well. Okay, so I just want to clarify that for you on Barron. Well, traffic impacts, there's quite a few things here. The comment letter alludes to impacts at the Enterprise Canal and the Beheimer crossing not being addressed, some intersections, and some growth rates in traffic trips And I'm going to tackle those a little bit out of order. The traffic impact study doesn't seem to support the 150% increase that the letter indicates. Possibly the author will be here and will explain that, but the traffic impact study doesn't support that number. If you look at the delta in the trips, no project plus project, it doesn't indicate a 150% increase there. Now these impacts to existing roads, this is a very typical situation as the city grows into county areas close to roads that have a lot of traffic. You can picture Herndon, Bullard, Shaw, Ashland, Shepherd, Copper, Beeheimer is the one in question here. Those roads already have significant traffic before the city creeps out towards them. And what the city's practice is to make improvements adjacent to the project at a minimum, and then to look off-site and cooperate with the county on those segments that are still within the county. So that's what happened here. We are conditioning additional widening on Beeheimer adjacent to the project, and then we're going to work with the county off-site, but to date, we have not received any comments that the county is looking to have any other streets widened or any other traffic signals installed. The project will be paying development impact fees, and the city will use those in the future to help fund or reimburse construction of those road improvements and those signals. If you have any questions on traffic, I'm here to elaborate.
Before we move on to the last comment, and like I was just reminded by Dave to note that you do have a memo on your DS that provides the project letters or the letters of opposition, as well as a memo responding to those comments provided by LFA. And Sean will also address this last comment here.
Yeah, groundwater impacts. This is a kind of common theme. Again, as we grow into the county, if commissioners remember that the city is depending more and more on surface water and moving away from groundwater. So just to do a little research before I came here tonight, I took a look at the Marion Recharge Basin and to see what the impacts it has on the groundwater, and it is showing that it is keeping it stable, if not some years raising the groundwater table. So we are already seeing significant results from the efforts that we're making today, and then going forward with Sigma by 2040, we are required to recharge as much or equal to what we take out of the groundwater table.
So with staff's analysis, staff was able to make the finding that the project is consistent with goals and policies of the general plan. Those goals and policies are addressed or listed in staff's report to the Commission. The project would not be detrimental to the public health interest in safety and convenience and general welfare of the city. The project site is physically suitable to accommodate the proposed development. The project's environmental impacts have been reviewed and analyzed through the environmental impact report, in which the City Council will have the authority to determine whether or not, or the adequacy of the statement of overriding considerations. The project provides a mix of housing type within the Heritage Grove growth area and will help to address the housing shortage, and also will extend infrastructure into the city's planned growth area. With that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve resolutions, recommending that the City Council approve General Plan Amendment 2021-003, Rezone 2021-006, Plan Development Permit 2021-001, track map 6343, and the associated environmental impact report. This concludes staff's presentation, and we are open for questions.
Commission have any clarifying questions? Very well.
Yeah, this seems like deja vu all over again, doesn't it? I'm glad you addressed the traffic situation. I only had one comment, and that was, seems to be a pretty wide gap between someone saying that there's a 150% increase versus 5%. That was the one that kind of stuck out. I'm not sure where that gap came from.
Yeah, we weren't able to figure that out as well. It didn't seem to be supported by the impact report.
Did you have a question?
Excuse me. Yes, on one of our goals, Goal 5, we're a city with housing, employment, and lifestyle opportunities for all ages, incomes, and employment. Is that correct? It's part of our general plan. Goal 5.
Yes, so yes, that is Goal 5, and the extension of that is the Land Use Element Goal 3, Policy 5.1, talking about variety in housing development types. So that's a goal of Goal 5.
Okay, I just wanted clarification to make sure. Thank you.
So Lily, I have a question about those residents that oppose the annexation. I understand that this is most likely going to happen at some point anyway, but what recourse, if anything, do they ever have? I mean, I'm assuming they're going to now be forced to go on to city services. So is there additional cost to them, or how is that addressed?
Sean, if you can clarify what, that requirement looks like in terms of, converting over to city services.
Yeah, so there's about 4 main city services, right? Sewer, water, street sweeping, garbage. Immediately upon annexation, they are not going to be required to connect to sewer or to water or to pay for street sweeping or the fourth one, garbage, sorry. As services come their way and become available, then they're going to have the ability to connect, and the code would say, be connect to sewer in 3 years. So there's not an immediate impact to them for costs for city services, but they will, once annexed, they will be served by police and fire, emergency services. So there's a perceived benefit there.
So just for reference and for the record, what is the reason that most people don't want to be annexed? What do they give you besides having to go into the city and pay higher taxes? What would be their reasoning?
I think that we'll have to let the residents make that point.
I didn't know if historically there was a, lot of reasons that are given.
Okay. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and open for the public hearing. I'd like to invite the applicant. Step to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and provide either comments or presentation.
Great. Chair and members of the Commission, my name is Jeffrey Harris. I'm presenting Track 6343 on behalf of Wilson Homes. My business address is 7550 North Palm in Fresno. With us from our team tonight, leading it is Todd Wilson and Goldie Lewis. We also have our engineer representatives from Stan Harbor and Lauren Smith, and our landscape architect, Terry Broussard. Wilson Homes, as Lily pointed out without defining specifics, owns 94 acres in the Heritage Grove Urban Center, which of course now is the highest priority growth area for the city. We are proposing to build a 590-unit project on slightly less than 72 acres of those 94, located roughly between the Enterprise Canal on the west, the future Barron Avenue on the east, Beeheimer on the north, and at a midpoint between Perrin and Shepherd on the south. The project will consist of 3 distinct neighborhoods of products that have been proven desirable for us by the Clovis residents, and the 3 neighborhoods will be divided with into 2 product types. Our Regent Park are more upscale, and Elevations are more entry-level product. The property is roughly located at the midpoint of the build-out of the Heritage Grove plan between Shepherd and Copper Avenues. So it really represents an area that at build-out will be the heart of the Heritage Grove area. The remainder of the property, of the 94 acres, is on the west side of the Enterprise Canal, and I think, as Lily had pointed out, has been designated in the Heritage Grove plan to have no housing units. It's designated as park. The project has been designed to be consistent with the Heritage Grove design guidelines that were adopted by the City Council in 2016, and I think that is a significant reason why the staff has been supportive of the project. The design guidelines clearly document they really restate 2 city priorities for development in Heritage Grove that we tried to focus on as the developer to comply with. First is to achieve a compact development pattern that integrates a variety of housing types, sizes, and densities at the neighborhood and community level. And the other statement in the design guidelines is a requirement to develop a well-connected grid system of roads. The project developers worked very closely with city staff to design a high-quality neighborhood on frankly, an unusually challenging site. The in and outs of the canal, the lack of straight alignments make it a very, very inefficient and very difficult piece, but it also creates some opportunities. We believe that we've also, in addition to what we think is excellent design, we have incorporated a homeowners association to permanently enforce and maintain the neighborhood design standards. We have found, as I'm sure the city has observed, with projects that do not have HOAs, they tend to not be as well maintained. And so that was an important factor for us, even for the more upscale portion of the project. I'd like to speak a bit about the product mix. Consistent with all recent Wilson projects, Track 6343 is designed to provide a balanced neighborhood featuring a diversity of more than one of our products, as I had mentioned. And essentially, this project is designed very intentionally to provide approximately a 60-40 split, a balance between the entry-level Elevations product and the move-up Regent Park product. That directly matches the proven market demand recently from Clovis home buyers, and is modeled, as I think Lily pointed out, after our nearby Track 6050 at the corner of Clovis and Shepherd, which is entirely sold out. Importantly, we believe this strategy implements a City Council directive for new development that was stated in Policy 5 that has already been discussed, that every project should contribute to a diversity of housing size and types. I'd like to speak briefly, if I could, about the General Plan Amendment. General Plan Amendments are always a matter that are of concern. And we're seeking a General Plan Amendment to increase the density on the remainder of the remaining 72 acres from medium to medium high or up 1 level of designation. Although the project is requesting a GPA to the medium high density, which allows us up to 15 units to the acre, we only intend to build out at slightly above the already approved medium land use density So we'll be at 8.25 units per acre. Because the project is only seeking to add 89 units more than what the medium density would provide to us. So the question you have to ask is, why 89 units? Well, there's really two reasons. First, that is the number that enables us to achieve that successful 60-40 ratio that I mentioned. And so that was a driving force. The second is because, as I mentioned earlier, the property originally had 94 acres. And we are only able to build houses on 72. The requested GPA remedies a very unusual situation that is a severe hardship for this property, and that we have lost the ability to build on a large portion of the property that we own. Leo purchased the property in 2002, and at that time we noted to city staff our desire to build at a medium density on the entire parcel, Clovis Avenue to the future Barron. And we reiterated that request to city staff in 2013. But instead, the property on the west side of the canal was designated as a park and therefore 0 units. So we are, it was a loss of about 98 units. So we are requesting this general plan amendment to essentially restore those lost units. This is critical to the ability to build this project. And the reason that it is so unusually important to us is because, as you are aware, builders spread their off-site improvement costs and their overhead costs to the number of units that are built. And because of the irregular shape of the property, as I mentioned, resulting from the canal, it's a very inefficient piece to begin with. But worse yet, we've been told by city staff that Barron Avenue street improvements, which is more than a quarter mile, is not reimbursable. The cost of constructing that street will be required to be borne entirely by the residents. We've objected to that, but nonetheless, that's the city policy at this time, and so the project must therefore budget to pay our street fees to reimburse the other developers in Heritage Grove, and must budget to reimburse, well, not be reimbursed for Barron Avenue. And this creates a very unusual and very difficult situation. Hence, the desire to reclaim those units. Of note, I will say that the effective yield, if you calculate the proposed 590 units across the full 94 acres that we started with, would be about 6.2 units to the acre, well within the medium density range. I think it's important to note also that our general plan amendment proposal specifically complies with the council directive in the general plan policy 3.6, that development provide a mix of housing types and densities at the block level. To accomplish this, individual projects of 5 acres or more may be developed at densities of one general plan designation higher or lower than the assigned designation. It's a long way of saying basically the general plan intends to accommodate general plan amendments when the commission and the council deem it appropriate. It's also important, and I hope that we don't let this go, the proposed GPA will also implement a city council directive to seek modest increases in density with a goal of achieving densities of at least 6 to 8 units per acre. It was stated in Landscape of Choice, and it was adopted as city policy in 1998. This proposal will do that. And finally, we believe the proposed project implements a healthy balance between many local neighbor desires for lower density, that's fully understandable, and what you are now facing as leaders of this city with state regulations and litigation from housing advocates that are pushing you for 20-plus units to the acre. And Commissioner Hinkle has been telling us for many, many years this was coming, this was coming. Well, we all know that it arrived with the recent litigation settlement. I'd like to speak briefly about some of the design features of the project. Each of the 3 blocks that I mentioned, the 3 neighborhoods I mentioned, are gated. That's intended to limit internal access and calm traffic, and very importantly, facilitate the HOA in their quest for maintenance of the project, especially parking enforcement. We have designed it in the high-density portion with exceptionally short block streets, again, to calm traffic, and the recreation centers, of course, with pool and restrooms. The other feature that I hope that you took note of is we also, in the higher density portion, included 190 dispersed guest parking spaces. And as you, I'm sure, are aware, we have built elevations products. Our competitors have built higher density products without parking spaces, and we have found that to be less than optimal. And so we are including parking in this design at this point, including 6343. The less dense move-up product has pool-sized lots, hence it doesn't need to have a common area pool. It's also gated to calm traffic and facilitate the HOA efforts. And then we have a greatly enhanced trail along Perrin and Hamel along the canal, which I want to give great credit to city staff on. We did not have that in our original proposal. They worked very, very cooperatively with us. They had their own creative input on it, and I think we ended up with a product that will really become a very nice neighborhood. Regarding Barron Avenue, we met again this morning with the neighbors living along Beeheimer next to the future Barron, and they expressed continued frustration with the alignment of Barron Avenue as stated in the design guidelines that were adopted by the council back in 2016. Although we all know and they understand that these city features are conditions that are applied to our map by the city and therefore not controlled by us, we have agreed that Barron and Beeheimer both present significant challenges. And so as we committed to the neighbors this morning, we've already reached out to city staff. I believe Goldie talked with Sean, and staff has been very receptive to discuss possibilities to improve both Barron and or Beeheimer. And those ultimate street configurations, of course, since they're adopted, are ultimately in the purview of the city council. But we have ample time to look at what is happening, to see if there are traffic calming measures or redirection measures that can be put into place on either Barron or Beeheimer, or the configuration of the ultimate design could even be changed. So we're looking forward to those meetings, and I think sooner rather than later would be helpful, Sean. And I know you're working with Goldie on that, and we really appreciate it. In addition to the functional aspects already noted, Lily has pointed out something that I already wanted to point out, which is we have incorporated the enhanced community corner at Beeheimer and Barron, which is consistent with the Heritage Grove design guidelines. And again, as Lily pointed out, we'll have to work out the details as we typically do on the specifics as it goes forward. But we have set aside the parcel there as the city would desire. And although it's very atypical, we have been as cooperative as we think we reasonably can be with the neighbors, and we've agreed for the curb-to-curb street on the north end of Barron to shift over. Normally it's split on the property line and everybody does their fair share. In this case, that didn't seem really fair, and we allowed the entire street to be moved over onto our property. It's a significant loss, but it seemed like the most appropriate way to move forward. Our engineer, Stan Harbor, is here if there are specific questions related to Barron Avenue and the like. And also our landscape architect, Terry Broussard, is here. And Terry, if you don't mind, I'd like you to come up at this point and just give them a very brief overview of the efforts that you and the city staff worked on along Perrin and Hamel and the canal to create a walkable feature.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, commissioners. Terry Broussard, Broussard Associates, Landscape Architects, 389 Clovis Avenue, Suite 200. We took advantage of what was going to be an open ditch for storm drain purposes and created a linear park. And so with that, 50 feet, we worked closely with city staff about how and why this would be an appropriate thing. And also to note that Heritage Grove has an overall great pathway system with trails, and this would connect to those trails directly to the east, along Perrin Avenue into the Lennar tract. So that, again, this is a continuous, trail, and probably in this case a little wider, and, that goes towards Hammond. And then what we did is we created this kind of, linear park with this more of a ribbon of, walking paths and also running paths through this 50 feet. And then as it started to turn north, this is where the city staff helped us with just, reinforcing that design as it goes north, and it will connect up to Beeheimer. Again, the same idea, creating a larger area up against the canal, and then that extra 19, 20 feet to continue up along that edge. And there'll be, in the future, as development occurs and the park occurs on the other side, on the west side, there'll probably be some connections to the trail that will be along that canal. So there's a great porosity between the east side, the developed east side, this project going north, that kind of reinforces the things that Clovis loves. What people like to move here is the trails, the outdoor spaces that are produced. And so this, again, will enhance that.
Thanks, Terry. Appreciate it. So in closing, I just want to hit very clearly on 3 points. Again, we understand that there's been some expression of concern about the development of the property, and especially about the density that we requested. We do believe that it provides a series of important benefits for the city. It'll build 590 much-needed housing units to help reduce the city's housing deficit. It's especially needed now because the permit numbers aren't as robust as they have been, and I think this can step a long ways toward helping to restore those, which of course are important not only for your housing element RHNA numbers, but are also important for paying the bonded indebtedness that the city is always monitoring. It'll construct significant new improvements. As it's currently configured, it would construct Barron Avenue for more than a quarter of a mile, and it will install in that same distance critical water, non-potable water, sewer, and storm drain lines under Barron Avenue that will serve all of Heritage Grove. So it is a critical portion. I want to close with just one observation. I've referred often to entry-level homes, and we're very proud of our Elevations product. I think it truly has provided an entry-level product to the Clovis community for a very long time. We've just recently calculated the costs for this. The affordable, entry-level, high-density Elevations product will have to start in the $450,000 to $475,000 per unit range. It's huge. For perspective, when we built this essentially same product, a similar product, at Harlan Ranch a number of years ago, it started in the 170s. And there's no one to blame. There's no one at fault. It just is what it is. But when you add the cost to prepare environmental impact reports and the cost to provide sewer capacity and water capacity and storm drain capacity and all of the many things that go into it, this is where we end up with the costs. And our Regent Park homes will be in the 600 to 750 range. So the most proven, in fact, the only proven strategy to help drive costs down now that land prices out here are over $400,000 an acre, is to spread those costs with higher density. And that's what we're asking. I think it shows the wisdom of the City Council a number of years ago to ask development to target 6 to 8 units as a minimum. If we fail in our efforts to provide a more affordable product for the Clovis children, I don't know where else they're going to go. I doubt it if it's going to be LA or the Bay Area. So the actions presented to you tonight are certification of the EIR, a general plan amendment, a pre-zone, approval of the map, and proponency of the necessary annexation to conform to the boundaries that the city and the county have agreed upon. And we respectfully request your approval tonight. So with that, thank you. Thank you for listening to me drone on.
Do we have any clarifying questions for the applicant?
No, I think he already answered. I was going to ask about the price points. I think you covered that.
I didn't mean to
Yeah,
be
that's okay.
disrespectful.
Yeah, no, I didn't have any questions about it. I was going to ask you, then you answered it.
Okay.
That entry-level price point, $450, seems, whew, it
Yeah,
took my breath away, actually, when you said it.
It takes your breath away.
Yeah. And the other point I just want to make, I'm happy to see you're addressing the parking situation for elevations. I know, in a lot of your products, that there's a lot of parking wars that happen because a lot of your product, turn into rental projects.
We're trying to use, as we
yeah.
call it, the carrot and the stick approach. We're
Yeah.
providing some guest parking spaces. It seems like with each project, we need to try to have a few more. And then we have an HOA that we have tasked to be aggressive about parking enforcement.
Yeah, that was, I didn't have any questions, I just had some
Sure.
comments, I guess, when my breath left my body when you said $450 for entry level. And I remember when your product at Harlan Ranch was $175.
Yeah, there you go, that's right.
All right.
Sir?
Yes, Mr. Harris, I can see your problem with pricing. Sacramento is stuffing things down your throat that is causing the cost of building to go up
Yes, sir.
significantly. It's only going to go higher at the current management we have. My question is, you state you have housing for all ages, income, and employment with the elevation.
Well, yes, we believe that the combination of the elevations in Regent Park provide that diversity.
And they're all two-story
The
developments?
elevations are two-story, yes.
Okay. If I can just make a statement here. It's not really accessible or feasible for our growing elderly group. Many cannot go upstairs.
You're right.
And they are predicting by 2030 that there will be 1.3 million people in the United States 100 years or older. That's 6 years from now. This project will take probably about 4 years to get built. So you're basically behind on what's going to be needed in the future. And
it's a challenge. I agree with you completely, Commissioner. And it's easy to say, well, we have a lot of single stories that are available, but we have a lot of single stories that are available at a higher price point. And it's a challenge.
if you might look at the elevations and doing something, we're making them two-story with a unit on top and a unit on the bottom, which could be used by our aging senior people.
Okay, we can talk to
So,
our
I
architect
mean,
about
something to
that.
think about. You're going to get the same housing in the area,
Right.
but, and the seniors aren't going to need 3 bedrooms and stuff like that, at least 2 minimum. But something you want to think about in the future to accommodate on our goal in Clovis to provide housing for all people.
I think it's a good statement, Commissioner. I don't disagree with you. And that's an interesting concept I don't believe that we've really looked at, to be quite honest.
Yeah, so it's just something to look forward into the future, and you would be right in the middle of the housing if that was available. There'd be a tremendous amount of people kicking your doors down and trying to move into the development because of different things where they have to downsize and things like that as you get older. I can talk in this world because I'm in this world now. My wife and I cannot go upstairs. So these are things that I see happening right now in front of us. 2 years ago, but it's a new world out there, and we need to sit back, look at it, and say, okay, let's do something yesterday. Thank you.
Understood.
Thank you, Mr. Harris. I think, we're done here. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite anyone in the public who would like to speak and to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing none, I'd like to invite at this time anyone who opposes this project. Go ahead and step up to the mic, state your name and address for the record.
Yes. Commissioners, my name is Mark Magnus. I am a resident of one of the houses that is immediately adjacent to this new development. My address is 4655 East Beeheimer. I can only hope to be as eloquent as Mr. Harris was in stating our objections as he was arguing in favor of the project. I've had the privilege of living in this house for about 20 years. The only other people that have been out there as long is Mr. Norgard over here, who's been there for 30 years at least, and Mr. Andresen, who's also been here for over 20 years. We bought out here because at that time it was a beautiful country area surrounded by orchards. We built our homes, we raised our families, and it's been wonderful. I am not a stranger to the city of Clovis. Indeed, I started my practice of law where I actually represented the city in its defense of the EIR for its 1994 plan. So, you know, I know what the plans provided for. And one of the goals at that time, and I don't think it's changed, because I have been active in this community, is the Clovis way of life. And it was always trying to support that halfway cowboy, halfway country, rural feel. And the plan, at least as I always understood what the city was trying to do, is to gradually move from this rural agrarian type of residential area, slowly increasing densities until you were able to get to the higher density residential, not placing them one on top of the other right next door to each other. And what's happening here is not only are we asking to put in this development that is going to be medium-high, albeit at the low end of medium-high, but make the general plan to increase the density under the general plan to make that happen. Now, there's an irony here because we've met with the city. Okay, when Heritage Park was originally being proposed, it was the first specific plan I'd ever seen where the city came out and they had Clovis Avenue going right through the middle of Mr. Norgard's home, literally. Drew our homes on the map and had the road going through it. And obviously we're interested, we're civic-minded. We came down, we talked. And the city agreed to move Clovis Avenue to follow Enterprise Canal. And they were true to their word, they did. But what we didn't know is they just put Barton right in, right where they put it, right where Clovis was going to go. That was a complete shock to us. And every one of us, without exception, had no idea that that had gotten passed through. Now, the applicants said that they were moving the alignment of Barton Avenue onto their property so it's not 50-50. And the reason for that is because our properties are never going to be put to a different use. Our properties are developed. We've got nice homes. We've spent a lot of money developing them. And nobody's going to buy our properties to tear down the homes, to pull out the pools and everything else we've built on the properties to build subdivisions. It's just not going to happen. It's never going to be economic to do that. So if the road hadn't been moved that 20 feet or so, you'd have half a road that never got built. Now, what did that leave us with? What that leaves us with is a curb that is 1 foot from Mr. Norgard's property line. 1 foot. There's not going to be any landscape there. You've got Mr. Norgard's home. We just heard from the project applicant and from your engineers that you're going to have to put a traffic light there. Well, where are you going to put that traffic light when you have 1 foot? It's not going to happen except to take property from our neighbors so that you can put in the traffic signals to handle the additional traffic. Now, to answer the engineer's comments, we pulled the traffic numbers from the traffic study that was in the EIR, and it said that this project at full build-out is going to produce another 5,500 vehicle trips per day. Now, it also said that we have 3,300 plus vehicle trips per day now. So let's put that into perspective. The EIR concluded that at its current status, the level of service during rush hour is below what the city of Clovis would approve. What does that mean? What it means is we have traffic. Currently, you can go to the intersection at Fowler and Beeheimer, and you will have traffic backed all the way to Shepherd at a stop sign. They then come across our homes, right across in front, and traffic backs up at the stop sign at Minnewawa. Usually, it stops at Enterprise Canal. That's a quarter mile of traffic stop right there. But oftentimes, it backs up to our homes. So you're over a half a mile of stop-and-go traffic just to get out to come to work. We find that sometimes it's so dangerous, we have to go all the way the other direction and go a mile this direction out of our way and a mile back the other way just so we can get out so that we get out unscathed. Okay? Now, what did the EIR conclude? It concluded that with these additional vehicle trips, the Beeheimer Avenue alignment is going to operate at below a level of service that Clovis would approve. But it's okay, because by 2046, the improvement should be in. Well, it's 2024. We're talking 22 years before you're going to fix a problem that you're exacerbating by approving the project today. That's not acceptable, right? It's just not acceptable. Now, you know, I'm not a planner. I've not even played one on TV. But it seems to me that if you're going to have responsible growth, and admittedly, we're going to have growth. It's going to happen. But you need to start where you put the road improvements in at the intersections and work your way back, and you don't build from the middle out and wait 26 years or 22 years to fix the problem that you've created, right? If you start there and work your way back, you fix the problem right up front, and it doesn't happen. Now, it's unfortunate that this particular project gets brought forward before the other ones did, but it has happened. So, the project applicant has rightfully stated that the general plan is kind of a living document, right? We try to amend it to update to accommodate the situation as it occurs. And the applicant has requested that you guys increase the density that's currently going to be pre-zoned or for this project. But what the city has told us is that this alignment for Barton is in the general plan and it can't be changed. Now, how can we increase the densities? Just no problem. But we can't adjust a road to make it safer for everybody in the area because it's in the general plan? I don't understand that logic. If you put the two together, we're just homeowners. We only have 6 homes. But they're putting in 590 so they can get what they want, but we can't get what would actually benefit the area? I don't agree with that. The developer and us have met, and we've met with the city in advance too. The developer this morning agreed with us that Barton really it shouldn't go through. It's just not going to be a safe intersection no matter what you do. And short of tearing down my neighbor's home so that you can build the road improvements necessary to make that a safe corner, it's never going to be a safe corner. What needs to happen is Barton needs to be terminated right at Perrin, and the traffic can then flow back across Enterprise Canal and hook back into Clovis Avenue, where it was originally moved to when the Heritage Grove specific plan was adopted. What that will do is it will take the pressure off of a road that's already over-impacted. Now, what else is going on out here that the EIR didn't look at? Well, on your website, you have the village's specific plan coming in, where you're going to be asked to approve the development of all of the almond orchards on the north side of Beeheimer, approve the development of all of the orchards on the south side of Beeheimer at the intersection at Minnewawa. You also have a new project called Vista Ranch, which is going to develop everything up Fowler to Beeheimer. And then, oh, by the way, we have a Costco that you guys are getting ready to approve that's going in at Willow and Beeheimer. And on the south side of the road, you've got a new Home Depot that's going in at Willow and Beeheimer. Now, none of that was even talked about in the EIR and the cumulative impacts that all of that would have on what is currently a two-lane road, a two-lane country road. None of it was discussed. What the developer is going to be required to do is improve the 660 feet of frontage that they have, and that's it. So we're going to have a two-lane road. It will widen for 660 feet, and then it will come back down to a two-lane road, crossing a two-lane bridge that crosses Enterprise Canal that gets taken out 2-3 times a year because people are running into it. It's creating an unsafe, we have an unsafe condition now. It's exacerbating the problem. It's not solving the problem, and the proposed solution is, that's okay, we'll fix it in 22 years. There are inconsistencies in the EIR. The EIR says that our properties are going to be zoned, at least if you look at the map, it's supposed to be VL. If you look at the narrative, it says it's going to be rezoned either OPF, FRA, R1, or R1 PRD. And our question was, which is it? We understand from the discussion tonight that they're going to take it to a level where they're calling it RA, which is different than what they said in either the EIR or at least the map and the EIR, where they said it was VL. I will concede that the narrative says, well, it might be RA. What's interesting is the single-family residential that is actually being proposed inside the Beeheimer Basin. That's the deepest level of the Beeheimer Basin now. That was never discussed in the EIR, any of the traffic that would come from that project. Nothing was discussed there. All they talked about was the 590 homes they're building on theirs. It is clear to us that the only path forward for this project is for us to meet with the city and with the project developer to find a path where we can get Barron moved. It cannot go in as proposed. It's not going to be feasible, number one. Number two, the annexation of the basin and our property is not necessary for this project, as was responded to in the engineer's comments. We're irrelevant. So it needs to come out. Yes, it's likely that we'll be annexed another day, but not today. We can have these discussions again when they propose, again, changing what is now the open space behind us into single-family residential, or perhaps some higher density use that they'll put to the future. But we can have that discussion then. It's not necessary today.
Mr. Magnus, I'm going to
Yes.
ask you to, go ahead and close out your comments. Give opportunity to others that are here that may want to comment.
Yeah, I apologize, and I thank you for your patience. All right, so I will wrap it up by simply saying that the project as proposed is flawed, that it might be something that we can find alignment on, where we can agree to live with the project. But as proposed, we aren't there yet. And with that, I will close. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you.
Yes, I had a question for you, if I could clear a few things up.
Your mic went off.
There we go. The development needs multiple access and egress
Correct.
on it for emergencies and stuff. So by taking Beeheimer out, you're losing that.
We aren't.
You're forcing it south.
No, we're not
And
taking.
it's something that's going to have to be there.
Yeah, well,
Your Costco and Home Depot are in a different development area, so that's why it wasn't included in this. So just wanted to clear those things up with you. And then I don't know if you've been up to the Bay Area or not, but we do love our Clovis way of life and stuff, but Sacramento could care less. And what's happening in the Bay Area, they want to happen here. They want multiple high-density housing everywhere. So in the future, someone's going to be able to buy your lot and put 6 to 8, 10 homes on it. And that's coming real soon, because today there is no single-family resident zoning. Okay? So that's something to think about, what's happening. And so this isn't a bad project for what could be there. And if this is delayed 4 years, I'll guarantee in 4 years, this would be a totally different project than what you see in front of you today. And this isn't a bad project versus what is coming down the road. Thank you.
Commissioner Hinkle, if I could just address, you misunderstood my point. My point is not that this is necessarily a bad project, I just think it's at the wrong time. I also am not discounting the fact that they need multiple points of ingress and egress. And the proposal that we've talked with the developer would provide that both to the north and to the south. But it would provide the buffer so that it could be a safe ingress and egress for the residents that are there, as well as the residents of the new development. So with that, I'll close.
Thank you, Mr. Magnus, for your clarification.
Madam Chair, there were a number of points that were made by the previous speaker. Just a couple of notes. One is that the speaker, Mr. Magnus, was the author of one of the letters that you have in your packet. Many of the comments that were provided verbally were also incorporated into the letter, which you have, and there are specific responses to those. But I know staff does have some responses to some of the questions, particularly around traffic. We can also reiterate the land use question. If you'd like to have us respond to those now, we'd be happy to do that, or at the end of the public hearing, whichever is your preference.
Perhaps we can wait till the end of the public period, and when we give an opportunity for the applicant for rebuttal, and then possibly after that.
Very good. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Rick Andresen, 4747 East Beeheimer. First, I'd like to thank you for your indulgence on giving Mr. Magnus some time to go into a lot of detail. I'll be much more brief. I've got 3 oppositions, things that I oppose in the staff recommendation. The first is annexation. We believe that that can come sometime in the future. I mean, right now, our neighbors are Ponding Basin and almond trees. And we don't feel that annexation is proper at this time. Along with that, the rezone would not be necessary at this point. We're just happy as can be with AE 20. The third area is Barton Avenue. Excuse me, Barron Avenue. We met with, Wilson Homes this morning, and I applaud them for their, willingness to discuss the problems that the proposed Barron Avenue in its current location would be. And I encourage staff to work with them to see if they can come to a different conclusion. But traffic out there is a disaster. I built out there in 2000. It was a country road. Clovis North, Clovis Community, it used to be the most traffic we had was taking a shortcut to get to Table Mountain. Clovis Community, Clovis North were built. The traffic impact is crazy. Even Shepherd is closed now for construction, but even before it was closed, I personally have counted 100 cars on Fowler Avenue from Beeheimer all the way to Shepherd. And I've had cars backed up to my driveway, which I don't even know how far that is, at the Minnewawa stop sign. So I would invite you to come out and visit Beeheimer. I would suggest you do not come between 7:30 in the morning and 8:30 in the morning, because that's when it is absolutely crammed with cars. Again, at 3:30 in the afternoon when school's out, it's nonstop traffic. At that point, it's not bumper to bumper. It's moving probably about 60 miles an hour. The other life of Beeheimer is we routinely get cars going by it. Have to be 80 and 90 miles an hour. It's crazy. When our kids were learning to drive, we had to triple caution them to look, because someone coming at you at that speed is just unavoidable. Our concern with Barron, as the way it is that the wonderful people that live to the south and east of us are going to figure out that there's another way to get around the traffic on Fowler and come up Clovis, hot dog over the canal, and come firing up 3/4 of a mile on Barron, and then get back up to Beeheimer. It just seems to be the rules of the road out there. They're wide open spaces, and there's no qualms about going fast. CHP used to be out there a lot prior to COVID, and now, they're strapped with not able to have the capability to have that many officers out there. When the CHP was out there, they wrote as many tickets as they wanted to, as long as they could be out there. It's just that kind of an environment. So traffic is, as I said, a disaster. I applaud Wilson Homes for listening to us this morning and talking about trying to change Barron, which has a myriad of issues other than just traffic, as Mark spoke to. And if somehow that can be rearranged so that we eliminate Barron coming all the way up, that would be a great step forward. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who'd like to speak against this project? Go ahead and step up to the podium there, state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Vin Lee. I'm at 4777 East Beeheimer. Much like my neighbors, I don't feel like annexation right now is the proper time, and it has no impact on Wilson's development. We did speak with Wilson this morning, and we came up with a lot of good ideas, which we hope the city would listen to. And majority of our concern has all been focused on Barron and the impact it would provide on Beeheimer, because it's a single lane each way with no turn out or nothing like that. And just the traffic backing up into our property, and the inconvenience of in and out safety and everything is such high risk. It is very dangerous right now also. Many times I've turned on my blinker to turn left into my driveway, and people have passed me on my left-hand side while I'm turning. And I don't know if more traffic from Barron and stuff like that will even worsen it, or how that situation would come about for us as in, Wilson Development and for our own safety. So I really hope the city will reconsider Barron Avenue, and also if you insist on Barron Avenue being there, if improvement on Beeheimer could also be in conjunction with Wilson's development to provide a safer pathway for everybody. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition of this project?
My name is Michelle Lang, and I live at 8210 North Sunnyside. I'm not immediately directly impacted by this project, but I started coming to the city council meetings and the planning commission meetings because of my safety concerns with all of the traffic in our area. I live in a rural area, Sunnyside area, between Shepherd and Nice, and the traffic and the safety for our family, for our livestock, for everything that us rural residents enjoy in those areas has become extremely dangerous. And what is the Clovis way of life? It doesn't seem that any of the rural aspects of that is even attempting to be preserved and kept safe. Our families aren't even safe, and I cringe. I just found out about this Costco a few days ago, and that whole area with the traffic the way it currently is a total safety disaster. And it's project after project after project that's being discussed to be put in. And the current situation of all of the traffic north of, I'd say, Nice, out north, it's totally unsafe for all of us. So I don't know the answer, but I just cringe every time I come to one more meeting. It's very upsetting because I don't see any solution. I don't see any solutions being discussed, any real solutions to traffic problems and safety problems in the whole area. That's all I wanted to bring up, is that, the more you keep adding and not even addressing what's currently going on, I don't know what's going to happen. It's just kind of shocking and unbelievable. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Go ahead and step up to the podium and they can get your name and address for the record.
I'm the westernmost house in the tract, so I'm going to get most of the dirt and the dust and the noise. And I just screech to think what I'm going to look at when I come home and look out in my beautiful sunset, and I'm going to see two-story homes looking down into my pool. I mean, that's pretty shocking.
Sir, can I get you to give us your name and address for the record? Can I get you to give us your name and address for the record?
Oh, okay. Paul Norgard, 4607 East Beeheimer.
Thank you.
So that's one of the concerns. Me trying to get out of that thing with a stop sign anywhere in the area, if I try to come out now at 8 o'clock in the morning, it might be a 15-minute wait if I don't want to risk my neck. It's horrendous. If I try to get my motorhome out, I've had to turn around and go back and then come back at noon to take my motorhome out. Can't get out of my own house now. So I think that's an issue that if it can't be resolved, it's just going to be really bad for me, because I'm going to be really in a bad place. And then the other statements are basically, what are we going to do to mitigate the dust and the dirt? I mean, that's going to be a huge issue for me. Again, I think a wall would be in order to stop some of that pollutant before it gets to the 7 homes, because a small amount of wind, we get northwest winds that are prevailing all the time. A little drive down a dirt road 50 or 100 feet from me, and I'm gonna be inundated. I can't imagine the kind of dust and dirt that's gonna be in my home. I mean, bad. We've got people with issues, the health issues and lung issues and that kind of thing. So that would be one of the concerns I would have, a big concern. How are you gonna keep the dust down? It's gonna be impossible. I don't see the trucks out now. When they built the other one, water trucks, they go out there, but I could see dust storms that were just horrible. I mean, one after another after another. So I think I'm gonna be eating that dust. It's gonna be a health issue for me. I don't know what they're gonna do to mitigate that. I mean, in my mind, you should put a net like they do for the golf balls and have netting, black netting up there 60 or 70 feet all the way down to protect us. Because I think we need protecting from what's coming from that dirt and dust and pollutants. The road in that is my main issue, so that's basically all I had.
Thank you very much.
My name is Ryan Weaver. My wife and I live at 4801 East Beheimer Avenue. I'm one of the younger homeowners of the 6. My wife and I have 10 children. The youngest was born in the middle of March. We've lived in Clovis since 2007. I understand that progress happens and growth happens. However, I feel that with the comment of Commissioner Hinkle, that I've been told perhaps I should move my family from the city of Clovis, because for someone that likes a rural community, it doesn't appear like I'm going to be welcome in the future. I appreciate the kindness and patience and conversation from Wilson Homes. They have worked with us as residents directly being impacted. If planning staff could pull up I think it was the second or the third to last of your slide deck where you talked about the safety was one of your points. It was towards the end. Keep going. Keep going. Yeah, right here. So the findings that there would be no impact and it wouldn't hurt the safety of the people in that area on Beheimer, I find that it is life-threatening currently for any of me and my 6 residents to pull out of our homes at certain times. As was outlined by Mr. Magnus and by Vin, you can be trying to pull into your home now and have people pass you on double yellow lines against the law, and they'll do it because it's been a county road. When I first moved there in 2018, I successfully, after a few months, was able to get the county to extend the double yellow lines past all of our homes on the 6th. Previous to me purchasing the home in 2018, they had successfully from Fowler to what would be Sunnyside been able to get double yellow lines on that road because of multiple accidents that had been caused by drivers passing on, which caused the life-threatening. One of them was a very severe accident. So the idea that adding 590 homes, obviously it's a lower of the density, to that area and having it not impact us as homeowners is not well-founded, at least in my mind. The second point, yeah, I'm against annexation. I don't think it's necessary at the time. Obviously, it's going to be coming, but it's not going to impact Wilson Homes. But my main concern is my 10 children. For the first time last year, I have my oldest who got his driver's license You know, it's not very fun to worry about your own child pulling out of your own home. Adding a stoplight, Sean, would be obviously helpful to slowing of traffic, but it would then make it to where I probably can't ever pull out of my house to turn left. I'll probably always have to go to Fowler Avenue like I do now if I want to go to work at 8 a.m. Thankfully for COVID, I've been able to work from home, so it hasn't impacted my commute in the morning. Otherwise, I'd have to leave much earlier, which would take me away from breakfast with my family. So, the Clovis way of life, the cowboy, the rodeo that we have coming up, the development and being proposed a higher density and such, seems like maybe our future city emblem will have to be changed, because the feel I get from what's been said tonight and the plans of what's coming in the future would mean that we should just, I guess, bury the horse and the cowboy, because we'll have to find a new emblem of our city, city emblem, which I think is very sad. So, is my 5 minutes up yet? I got about one more? Okay, very good. I'm gonna take my 5 minutes then. Thank you, ma'am. I really like Clovis. I really love my home. I love having my children be able to play on their 2 acres. And we want to be working residents and neighbors with the development that's coming. We have this established high value, you know, and we've invested in our homes. It's seems like there should be a way where residents and developers and the city can communicate and work to find solutions to the development. Because it's going to come, but we should all work together and talk with one another to find out what would be helpful. And I think our wish is that Barron Avenue would not go all the way to Beeheimer. It would help solve the traffic in front of our homes. It would help the developer with their costs. It doesn't seem fair that they should have to build a road that they won't get reimbursed on. I'd love it if the developer considered having Regent Park on Beeheimer Avenue instead of in the middle of the plans. I'm not a big fan of the elevations driving around. I like seeing homes where children can run and play and have wide open spaces. And so some progress I don't agree with. I think we should turn back the time and have a lot more free time for our children and a lot more open space for them to play stickball. That's my end of my comment. Any questions for me?
Mr. Weaver, Clovis wants you to live here. We want you to live here. We want you to experience the Clovis way of life. All of us are fighting to keep that, and we hope you will also. Sacramento doesn't give a darn. Everything that's being forced on us is coming from Sacramento, and if we don't do something, they sue Clovis because we're not doing what they want. So just so that you know the problems we have and what we're trying to do to keep the Clovis way of life. Thank you.
Okay, to that point, thank you for that comment. So how can we help one another? Fight for the Clovis way of life. You need donations, and I'm sure people in the city of Clovis...
You need to get a hold of everybody you know that works in Sacramento, and you need to be on them weekly. And you need to go on the Sacramento website and find out what bills are out there. There's 2,300 bills out there right now. And you need to find out what bills are there that affect you and the city of Clovis. You need to get hold of your representatives and tell them to vote no on those. So you need to be real proactive in order to keep our Clovis way of life. It's going to take a tremendous amount of effort here. in the next 4 to 6 years?
Well, I think our representatives do vote no, but how do we help support the Clovis to be able to fight it?
Mr. Weaver, perhaps you can speak to staff after this meeting. Dave or someone can assist him. That would be fantastic. Thank you. Do we have anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition of this project? Seeing none, we're going to give the opportunity now to the applicant for a rebuttal.
Thank you, Chair and members of the Commission. I'm not going to provide a traditional rebuttal. I will say the Commission and the staff know better than I do the constraints that you're under, the 8,000 or so units of your fair share housing that's required to be built in the town. You know the penalties if you don't comply. I know that you're trying to balance it. We believe this project is an effort to balance those demands. As it relates to annexation, Wilson Homes is not opposed to the desire of the neighbors to not annex at this time. In fact, we encouraged them this morning to be sure to tell the Planning Commission that, should it go on to council, to be sure to tell the council that, and should it go on to LAFCO, that would be the point when they would ultimately, we believe, be successful in not annexing at this time. As it relates to traffic, I'll defer to the staff to respond to the concerns. I know that they have items that they want to say. I do understand, Sean, that you're looking at Thursday at 10 to have the meeting. Thank you on behalf of the neighbors as well as the applicant. Thank you. I think this could be a very productive session. As Commission knows, we as the applicant are merely implementing adopted street standards, but we're more than willing to meet with the neighbors and the staff to look at solutions to what is clearly a point of concern on both of these streets. I will speak just very briefly to the dust issue. We always do, and we are committed to continue to use best management practices for the building industry. Dust does get created. We all know that. But there are a number of things we can do: silt fences and straw wattles and water trucks, and we commit to doing that. The Air District occasionally likes to park their trucks and just sit and monitor us, and they've been pleased with what we've done in the past. I trust that we will continue to do that here, and we will build a wall around that project, and that will make a difference, as the gentleman indicated. So with that, I will sit back down. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. Okay, at this time, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and I'd like to invite staff to address and clarify any comments that were. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. I do also want to point out that there is an attachment 4 to the tract map resolution that I want to bring to your attention. There was a correction to condition number 63, which talked about the right-of-way dedications and improvements on Barron Avenue. There's a dimensional change there, so we want to make sure that that's part of the motion tonight. Now we'll go and talk about some of the traffic study work that was done. This traffic impact analysis was prepared before the Villages and Vista Ranch were submitted as projects, so that's why they are not included in this scope. Now, those projects each will have to go through their own environmental analysis and traffic study, so we will be looking at the impacts that those have on the area. The other two projects that were mentioned, Costco and Home Depot, we would love for them to come to Clovis, but so far we have not seen an application. So that's why they are not on the scope here, because they are not an application yet. That was what I had to add as clarification for you. Thank you.
Sean or Kyle, can you address the situation with the traffic counts and the total project traffic that was cited by the speaker, as well as the traffic that would flow to Beeheimer specifically?
Sure. I had to go hunting for the number for a little bit, but I found it. The speaker was right that there is roughly 5,500 trips from this project. Now that's going to be added to the overall traffic of every development, every, both in the county, in the city of Fresno, in the Heritage Grove area as well. So that I think I don't find where it's represented as 150% growth, but that 5,500 number is definitely represented in the trip generation from this project. Now, that's not going to hit every single street. It's going to disperse. It's going to disperse over time, and that's what the professional studied for us. And yes, so those trips will impact the local streets, but Clovis is going to follow its practice of developing, what's immediately adjacent, and then looking at the problems then next door, and working with the county and the county areas to see what can be done. And part of that means meeting with the applicant, next week to try and find out, hey, can we do something to help solve the Barron connection to Beeheimer? And can we do something to help the rural residential owners, with improving their safety in and out? We will definitely continue to, as we always do, to work with the applicant and look to make this as safe as possible.
Thank you, John. And Kyle, I know it's addressed in your written response, but can you briefly explain the phasing of the mitigation or the improvements that would address LOS issues over time?
As part of the project, there are development impact fees. Those are going to be assessed and used for improvements of the project. The total build-out of 2046 is a cumulative long-term projection. It doesn't necessarily mean that the impacts are going to be, it means by that time the impacts will be, the improvements will be completed, but as projects are conditioned, as future projects are conditioned and additional intersections and roadways are impacted by future development, those improvements are improved at that time. So it's not just a wait and see type situation.
I have one more item. Perhaps we can elaborate a little on the annexation and why it's being proposed at this time.
So we meet with LAFCO and Fresno County on a monthly basis, and whenever we have projects proposing annexations, we take the project boundary before both LAFCO and Fresno County and discuss what annexation should look like in terms of a logical boundary. This was the direction that we were given by both LAFCO and supported by Fresno County as well. When it comes to options, other options, I'm not sure at this point if both LAFCO or the county would be supportive of excluding this area. There is a process, so ultimately if the city approves its or gives the okay to move forward with this annexation, we still have to move through the LAFCO process, and if there isn't 100% consent, or if there isn't consent from the neighbors, there's a process for them to protest the annexation as well. If the annexation ultimately does not get approved, then we'll have to come back and look at the project and see what we have to see if, both LAFCO and or the county would be okay with a different boundary. But at this point, this is the boundary that both the county and LAFCO have directed us forward to move forward with this project.
Thank you, Lily, for that clarification. Dave, did we want to address any additional comments?
Everything that Lily said is what I would say as well. I think it's also worth noting that LAFCO has a responsibility under the law to define a logical boundary. And I think they looked at it as though part of the project boundary comes up to Beeheimer, and part of the basin property also comes up to touch Beheimer, and it would have left sort of a jigsaw pattern, along Beheimer if the rural residential properties were left out. So just at sort of face value, they didn't view an annexation pattern which left out those rural residential properties as being logical at sort of at face value. The other thing that's worth noting is we did bring this up again to the county earlier this week. They were very clear in their statement that they would not support the city's annexation if the city did not propose an annexation to include those properties. Now that's important because the city's MOU with the county effectively gives the county veto authority over our annexation applications. So the county doesn't find that the annexation boundary is appropriate under our standards of annexation, they can block the annexation from proceeding, period. So we do need to work with the county to include them. They were very specific about our inclusion of these rural residential lots. What they've said is that there is a process that LAFCO goes through. LAFCO conducts public hearings. Their board makes decisions. They also have protest proceedings. That LAFCO's process is LAFCO's process. So if LAFCO determines for whatever reason that they'd rather have the boundaries exclude these, that's up to LAFCO. That they have their own authority to make annexation decisions. So where it's important for the city to be able to pass an application along to LAFCO, LAFCO will do whatever it does, and the owners will have the opportunity to make their point with LAFCO.
Thank you, Dave, for that clarification. Before we move on to deliberate, I wanted to address the residents that came in this evening. First, I want to thank you for taking time out of your evening to come and address us. It's important that we hear what you have to say and consider all your needs, because yours are just as important as anyone else's. We want to make sure that we grow responsibly and that developments that go into different areas of our city allow for responsible expansion and diverse housing, which a lot of the projects that come before us have done that in the past. I specifically want to address the fact that I don't believe that anyone sitting in this dais would say that anyone would be excluded from being welcomed in Clovis. I know that our leadership, our community leaders, and our staff work hard to ensure that everyone feels welcomed. Any faith, any age, any economic status. Clovis has come, when I moved here, it's been a while that I moved here, my house was surrounded by orange orchards and strawberries. So I loved going out there. I'm not surrounded by that anymore. There's development, there's apartments, there's a lot, all of the farming went away. But although our landscape has changed, the fundamental values that this city was built on have not. So rest assured that leadership is always in the interest of its community and of its people who live here, so know that. And every decision that's made here, although we are held by certain regulations, we do still try to make the best decision for our city and for every resident, not just people who need apartments or not just people who want to live in large homes, but everyone. We want to make sure that homes are available for anyone who wants to come live here, and it is disheartening to know that your starting home is almost $500,000. That's insane. So obviously there's an issue, and there's a housing shortage if the demand is that high, and we have to build homes that meet everyone's needs. Not everyone is going to need, as Paul indicated, seniors are not looking to have two-story homes. Young marriages, people who are getting out of college, I mean, there's just so much need for housing, diverse housing. So I'm glad that Wilson is bringing forth something that is also a good project. So with that said, I'll bring it back to Commission to deliberate. And since we have 5 items before us, we're going to go ahead and motion, one at a time for the record. Go ahead.
Dave, can you give us any direction if there is going to be future meetings regarding the streets? Is that going to change anything that's before us today? Because it kind of seems like that's a Hail Mary of, oh, here, let's have a meeting, and it's kind of being done towards the end of this process. So is that going to change anything, or do we need to make any considerations based on that?
Sean, I'm not sure if you can answer the question. I'm not sure what the sort of the nature of the discussion was and how much that intersection could change, or whether it's a design issue.
Yeah, I'm aware of the meeting this morning, but I'm not really aware of what the options were discussed. That's why we're going to meet with them next week. I know that the design guidelines do have that road connecting to Beehammer in some fashion, so I think there might be some flexibility that we may not have to come back, but Commissioner, there definitely is a possibility that they could change enough for maybe we might have to come back before you, but I'm just really not aware of what those options are and kind of what the flavor is to change the alignment and such.
So I guess my question to you, is there anything that we need to change on how we vote, or any verbiage that we need to change if we're going to approve things tonight based on what could possibly happen in a meeting? Or would that just need to come back regardless?
I think you should probably consider the project that you have presented before you. I think what you've heard is an intent to try to address the sensitivity of that particular location, but what you have before you is the alignment that's been presented in the graphics. I know that we hope to maybe soften those impacts a little bit, but if your question is what should you vote on, you should probably vote on what you see in front of you. Yeah.
I had one follow-up question, Sean. You mentioned that there was a correction that we needed to cite, and that was on which item?
It's attachment 4. It mentions condition 17. That is actually condition 63 of the tract map, item D, Delta. There is a text revision. It reads North Barron Avenue between the ultimate northern limit of the flood control basin, and I'm going to skip forward. Then it says 25.5 instead of 40.5 feet of right-of-way.
Okay, that's the tract map resolution.
That's the tract map resolution, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just clarifying where Barron is going to fall relative to the property line per this proposed map, and how much right-of-way is necessary beyond the curb.
So are we, when we go to vote on this item, are we to state that, with the condition, revision for item number?
63.
63.
Yeah, 63D is in Delta, if you want to be more specific.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have 5 items before us, so we're going to go ahead and vote on each one individually. So at this time, I want to invite a motion for resolution addressing the final environmental impact report. Do we have someone who can make that motion?
Before I wasn't ready to make a motion. I was just going to make a couple of comments. I do have some concerns with this in regards to the last minute seems to be a Hail Mary about the street changes. I don't have an issue with the density bump since it's only one density up. It's not like some projects that have been 3 and 4. In general, nothing against Wilson, you guys make a great product, but in general, I have a hard time with everything that's getting built lately seems to be getting smaller and smaller and more expensive. And I know that it's nothing having to do with the builder. It has to do with the market. But we want to be inclusive. We want everyone to live here. But, I mean, most of us probably couldn't go build a brand new home right now. So that's just a problem that everybody needs to, I guess, be aware of. I do still have to put on the record that I have a hard time with so many gated complexes that have no sidewalks. And we want to have walkability, we want to have children, and those are not that conducive to safety. I appreciate that they're gated, I appreciate that there's HOAs, but I just have to say it on the record that those are just things that I would like to see in the future. We maybe try to go away from, and we try to go back to having sidewalks on both sides of the streets and having it a little safer for the families. Other than that, I don't have a problem with the project per se. I have an issue with some of the traffic and how that's going to play out. Again, I totally understand that we fix the streets and we do that as it's grown. So you guys can't be responsible to have to do all of the streets in every corner. But I want to acknowledge that I hear the neighbors and I understand that there already is traffic issues. This is not going to help it. It's not going to make it, a bazillion times worse, but it's not definitely going to help it at all. And those need to be addressed. So I just wanted to make those comments before we made a motion.
Any other comments from the commission?
Go ahead.
I'll just piggyback on what you said. If there's more comments, then my issue is still traffic. It's been traffic since I've got here. I think everybody in this room has acknowledged that there's an issue there now. It doesn't seem like we're addressing that. It's like we're kicking that can down the road. That's the feeling I get. And I would like, I understand that there's a meeting on Thursday. I do have some discomfort with that and trying to vote on something now that, you're not really clear whether that's going to be a major decision or a minor decision or something's going to happen. So I'm a little uncomfortable making a vote at this point. But those are pretty much my comments. I echo the same things. I'm not real comfortable with more elevation type projects with no sidewalks. Like I mentioned, those things usually turn into investment properties. And there's a lot of turf wars on parking spaces. I know that's been addressed, but it just seems to be inevitable on those things. 450, again, I just want to, for the record, took my breath away for an entry-level home. I don't know who would afford those homes as an entry level. I don't know that we have enough industry. Maybe Costco's going to come and bring jobs for people to afford those homes, but I don't know. With a young family starting out, that seems to be a big stretch for somebody to get in one of those homes. That's about all I really have to say at this point.
I have just one final comment because it has also been my thing about the no sidewalks. And I, again, appreciate your design, but it is always, from the beginning, was my concern for safety. And because I do have different friends and family who have lived in your developments, and I'm going to say that 3 out of my people, once they got pregnant and they had their young child, they decided to keep that as an investment and found something else because they just were not comfortable. The parking was always a problem, and they were just not comfortable with not being able to walk safely around their neighborhood, or they just didn't feel like with their kids that it would be safe because people do still speed, and there's just still a lot of different issues that were experienced there. But people are buying them. Mr. Harris mentioned that you guys are already sold out. Your other projects, so people are buying them. But it's just something to consider as far as maybe sidewalks on one side or something else, making some kind of accommodation for that. And I have driven at different times. I went there every time we have a project. I'll drive it out just to see what the impacts are. And you're absolutely 100% right. In the morning, I purposely took an additional hour in the morning, meaning from work, to see how long it would take me to drive that area. And it is in the morning at 7. It's the worst. Well, 7:15ish. It is not good. And I used to. My son attended when he was in high school. He was doing a bridge program and attended Clovis Community also, and at different times. It was tough. So, again, same concern. We already acknowledged concerns with traffic, and we're just growing a little bit faster than the streets are expanding. I guess it's what's happening here, so obviously a problem. But nonetheless, I think we're ready to make some motions here.
It's getting hot in here, by the way. Not just me, it's getting hot in here. Okay, so in light of everything that I said, I don't have a problem with most of this project, and I will make a recommendation to consider approval of a resolution recommending that the City Council certify the final EIR for TM 6343, adopt CEQA findings of fact and statement of overriding consideration, and 3, adopt mitigation monitoring and reporting program.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hatcher and a second by Commissioner Hinkle to recommend that the City Council, 1, certify the final EIR for the Track 6343 project, 2, adopt CEQA findings of fact and a statement of overriding consideration, and 3, adopt a mitigation monitoring and reporting program. Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkle?
Yes.
Commissioner Hebert?
Yes.
Chair Antuna?
Yes.
And Commissioner Bested is absent. Motion carries 401.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve GPA 2021-003, resolution recommending that the City Council approve a request to amend the land use element to the general plan for the development area from medium density land use designation to medium high density land use designation.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Hatcher and a second by Commissioner Hinkle to recommend that the City Council approve a request to amend the land use element of the general plan for the development area from the medium density land use designation to the medium high density land use designation. Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkle?
Yes.
Commissioner Hebert?
Yes.
Chair Antuna?
Yes.
And Commissioner Bested is absent. Motion carries 401.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2021-006, a resolution recommending that City Council approve a request to pre-zone the properties within the annexation area from Fresno County AE 20 Zone District to the Clovis OPF RA R1 and R1 PRD Zone Districts.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hatcher and a second by Commissioner Hebert recommending that the City Council approve a request to pre-zone the properties within the annexation area from the Fresno County AE 20 Zone District to the Clovis OPF RA, R1, and R1 PRD Zone Districts. Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Hebert?
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkle?
Yes.
Chair Antuna?
Yes.
And Commissioner Bested is absent. Motion carries 401.
And I will consider approval of TM 6343, a resolution recommending that the City Council approve a vesting tentative tract map for a 590-lot, single-family planned residential with changes to condition 63D as stated.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hatcher and second by Commissioner Hebert recommending that the City Council approve a vesting tentative tract map for a 590-lot single-family planned residential development with the inclusion of modification to condition number 63D in the conditions of approval. Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Hebert,
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkle,
Yes.
Chair Antuna.
Clarification before I cast my vote, please. This is where we're addressing the Barron, and this is where traffic is going to be addressed also? Yeah, I'm not there, meaning we're still in discussions, and I don't feel that it's finalized, so my vote today is no.
And Commissioner Bedstead is absent. Motion carries 3-1-1.
And I'll make a final motion to consider approval, PDP 2021-001, a resolution recommending that the City Council approve or request to approve a plan development permit for a 590-lot single-family residential development.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Hatcher and second by Commissioner Hebert, recommending that the City Council approve the request to approve a planned development permit for a 590-lot single-family residential development. Commissioner Hatcher,
Yes.
Commissioner Hebert,
Yes.
Commissioner Hinkle,
Yes.
Chair Antuna,
Yes.
and Commissioner Bedstead is absent. Motion carries 4-0-1.
Okay, looks like we're done for the evening. I'd like to adjourn this meeting at 8:16, until the next Planning Commission meeting scheduled for May 23rd, 2024.